my name is Kiki Mordi, and welcome to Chapter 4 on Women Radio 91.7. Chapter 4 is that on-air program that focuses on bringing human rights education to the average Nigerian, to teach the average Nigerian on how to invoke their human rights when their human rights have been violated or what their human rights are. And hence, we analyze the concept of indivisible and inalienable human rights, social justice, fairness, and equality in Nigeria. Last week we spoke on freedom of speech, new media, and citizens' participation. However, this week we'll be speaking on forced eviction and human rights. I'm not alone in the studio. I have three very interesting guests with me in the studio. I have with me Comrade Mohammed, Zanna. He's a part of the Nigerian Slum Informal Settlement Federation, and he's also a resident of Tarkwa Bay. Also with me live here, we have the Executive Director of Spaces for Change, Victoria Ohaeri, and I have Elijah Atingpo. He is the coordinator at the Nigerian Slum Informal Settlement Federation, the media team. He's also an evictee for Otodo Gbame. We've had over 20 evictions in different communities in Lagos, and that's why it's very important that we talk about what forced eviction is and where it sits concerning human rights. Recalling the conversation that we had with the Human Rights Commission, we talked about forced eviction being a human rights violation, a gross human rights violation, regardless of the terms with which it happened. So I'm going to be talking to my guests today, giving us insights on how this is a human rights violation and why it needs to stop. So Victoria, I want to start with you. Where does forced eviction sit on the human rights scale?
That use of force is not just a human rights violation. It constitutes cruel, inhuman and degrading treatment, which our constitution, I think chapter 34, prohibits. What is particularly gross about it is that it usually affects low-income people. Like you have seen these people.
Yes.
It's hard for you to hear that governments go into the highbrow neighborhoods to conduct eviction, no matter what happens, no matter what the issues, even if criminal activities are going on there, even there are questions about the security of their tenure, whether their houses built on drainages or high tension wires. But whenever something happens in low income communities like this, government is always, or whoever that is perpetuating the eviction, they're always quick to take action.
It is very unfortunate that we are in this kind of the situation.
Okay.
With all the security problem the country is facing. And we say the government is always talking about fighting forced eviction, fighting crime. But through forced eviction, you create a lot of source of recruitment for all the crimes that are ravaging our countries from north, south, east, west. Because by the time you go into your community and forcibly evict thousands of people, who among them there are thousands of teenagers, thousands of toddlers, thousands of little children that are of age of going to school, that quite often most of them might never go back to school. Families end up being separated, mothers living separately, fathers living separately, children living separately, and as a result, most of them end up meeting with the bad gangs, bad people, because they can no longer go to school, because they are under the bridge, they are by the roadside, and we continue to have more and more problems. But no matter the justification the government is giving to evict our community, once upon a time, Nigeria is selling more than 2 million barrels of crude oil. When this government, this current administration came at it first time, the price of the crude oil went down under $40, and the amount of crude oil we are exporting out of Nigeria come down under 1 million.
Yes.
Why? Because of the activities of vandals in the Niger Delta that vandalizing the pipeline. The government did not go and evict the whole of Niger Deltans. So therefore, why should now be, in our own case, over 20 communities were evicted within a period of just 2 weeks, and the eviction is still ongoing, and there are tens of more communities within that island that right now nobody knows when next the bulldozers are going. So
Yeah,
the government is always giving excuse. It is
Yeah.
not vandal. It is about kidnappers. It is about this. Let's take a look at Tarkwa Bay, for example.
Okay.
Tarkwa Bay is the sea border of Nigeria,
Yes.
where everything that comes into Nigeria comes through Tarkwa Bay. Hence, there is every security agencies in Nigeria are located and situated within Tarkwa Bay and within the waters. Hundreds of patrol boats are all over the waters.
Okay.
And then the pipeline itself that the government is now accusing going under the guise of vandalism, we have the civil defense all over the pipeline.
Yes.
We have the Navy base. We have the Navy base in Tarkwa Bay that equally supplementing the effort of the civil defense. We have the Divisional Police Command in Tarkwa Bay. We have Army base in Tarkwa Bay. So you can imagine with all these security agencies and crime is happening, but instead of holding those security responsible, because they are the people with the statutory responsibility to make sure that this thing did not happen.
Yes.
The government budget money, budget uniform, budget weapons, budget everything for them to make sure there is no vandalism going on in in wherever in Nigeria, but it continued to persist. Who supposed to bear the brunt of these activities? Why do we have all the security agencies over there? Collective punishment is not the way forward. It's fire brigade approach is what the government is doing, and this is a short-sighted idea. So people cannot be forced out of their house in a 21st century democracy. Yes. People should not be forced out of their house. There's no justification,
no reason whatsoever.
No whatsoever.
Okay.
And you just come into a community and then you give them 1 hour
to leave.
To leave a community surrounded by water. We don't have any land link with any part of Nigeria. We are surrounded by water as we speak. Hundreds of people are still stuck in that island with nowhere to go, with no money to cross the water. I just stuck there.
I'm so sorry.
And many of us are sleeping by the jetty. CNS. I was sleep at the jetty. We have nowhere to go. You want to fight corruption? You want to fight crime? And then you leave the criminals and you're punishing us. Is that the democracy we voted for? Democracy, the government supposed to protect the most vulnerable. We are the most vulnerable.
I'm so sorry. If you want us to take a break, we can take a break. It's quite unfortunate because from what Comrade Mohammed Zanna has said today, reasons for forced evictions sound more like excuses. And I want to go to Elijah right now. Elijah, you also know exactly what it feels like to be an evictee because you were a resident at Otodo Bame. And again, no resettlement plans. Whatever happens, what happens to resettlement right now in Nigeria? What's the status of that?
Resettlement doesn't usually work in Nigeria, even if the courts give judgment asking the government to resettle the evictees. So
for the Otodo Bame case, there was a judgment that asked that you guys be resettled.
Yes.
What happened with that?
Like, okay, let's take our own case for instance.
Yes.
So the Justice Onigbanjo, he actually gave his judgment ordering the Lagos State government to resettle the residents of Otodo Bame. Up to now, that judgment has not been enforced.
Till now,
right now as we are talking to you. So on Tuesday, because at the point the Lagos State government, they appeal and were at the court on Tuesday for hearing, but the court case was adjourned till next year, June. So,
and this is 1 year we're talking about. People are homeless. People have to be homeless for 1 year.
This is going to it's more than 1 year now.
3 years.
This is the third year. So by April, on the 9th of April this year, it will be 3 years. So I think it is even best that eviction do not happen at all, and the government should look for other alternative to force eviction, because for me, even all the excuses that they used to give, excuses are good reasons for bad results, because there are a lot of consequences that come after which you have evicted the communities.
Yes.
So why don't you bring these people together and maybe have a roundtable discussion and look at how you can solve this problem together. So, and the Lagos State government, so they don't even hit to court judgment. So
from what we've seen, what do you have any recommendations?
My own recommendation would be, I know that in our own organization, they've tried to do to work with LASURA. I don't know if you know of LASURA. That's the Lagos State Urban Religion Planning Unit. So they try to work with them, and then we've tried to show them alternative to forced evictions. So like things that they've done at other African countries like Kenya, But the thing is, anytime you are trying to plan with government, it is very, very difficult, because at some point they will just pull out of the plan. They will just pull out of the plan, and it kind of make everything, even before, like for the eviction that happened at Otorogam, there were several times that we needed to kind of have a roundtable conversation and look for other ways to mediate. But at some point they just pull out of the discussions,
The first day of the mediation, we never even start the mediation. The Lagos State government side of the mediation, they just walk out of the mediation. And the next thing we had, they went and finally demolished Otodogban community. We in Nigerian Slum and Informal Federation, we are calling for institute upgrading of our communities. If our communities are not compatible with the modern society, a mega city that they are so much trying to build, then our slum community should be institute upgrading, to upgrade our communities, to stand with the modern Lagos that they wanted to. Because that's why in our organization, quite often the government said, oh, we don't have money to do everything for the people. We have a plan in place. We do what is called saving group in our communities. All our members, we form saving groups, and in these saving groups you have your personal saving and you have your UPL saving. UPL saving is for urban development. You want to develop things in our community. We don't have road, we need toilet, we need things like that. We use that very fund to do it. And also, if the government now tomorrow say, oh, we don't have money, we will now use our UPF and say, oh, we are not coming empty-handed to the table. We have something we are putting on the table. Let the government bring it on and share. But the secret, the mystery of all this is that the same people that want to develop, the developers and everybody, are the same politicians, indirectly in power, or they have their cronies in power doing their bidding. So how do we how will those people agree to sit down and negotiate with us? They do delay tactics. They give us some ministers to talk with us, some special assistants to talk with us, while they are still doing what they are doing to our communities. And today it is Tarkwa, over 20. It's not just Tarkwa, it's over 10 kilometers of land communities along the 5-line axis, all the way to Elisha. You understand? All the way to Elisha, they clear everything down to Tarkwa. So these are thousands of people. You just said move and go to where? The Constitution of Nigeria said that the land belongs to the people, given in trust to the state to manage on our behalf. So if you think this side that where I am, I'm not supposed to be there, then you have to relocate me to where I'm supposed to be there as a citizen that has a right and a stakeholder in this very land that called Nigeria. We are all stakeholders here. We are all stakeholders. So if you say I'm not supposed to be sitting here at a time, then you're supposed to now give me a place where I'm supposed to be as a citizen. You see people on the street, traders. They are being arrested from the slum. They demolish their slum. They come into the city. They get arrested and taken to mobile court and then trial for one of no means of visible living. Because you don't have any means of visible living, they arrest you and take you to a mobile court and then they charge you 30,000 naira fine. Somebody that has no means of livelihood, you now charge him 30,000 naira to pay. How is he supposed to pay? As a result, the prison get congested with people that are not supposed to be in prison in the first place.
Now, under what circumstances should a government demolish? The people who have visited say it's a ghost town. I was there myself and I saw it's a ghost town currently. What circumstances should the government demolish? And then the people that have been displaced, what rights do they have?
not just any particular different agencies of government, whether it's the waterfront, whether it is the Ministry of Land, whether it's urban physical planning, different agencies of government have demolition powers. And the issue there is what rights do the displaced have. While government has on one the power to demolish, but there are certain safeguards. That power is not absolute. That power is curtailed by law. First and foremost, before we begin to discuss why governments do this, I would want to mention that there's what they call positive and negative obligations of government. The negative obligations are the popular ones, like things that governments are restrained from doing, like do not demolish, do not violate, do not prohibit the freedom of speech. All these are negative. Do not do this. But the positive obligations are those that require government to commit certain kinds of resources to actualize, and housing rights is one of them. And most obligations that require government committing resources, you find our government dilly-dally. That's where all of these conversations happen about what government. But I haven't said that the individuals that are affected by demolition have the right, different kinds of right. The right to notices, adequate notices. They have the right to adequate compensation. They also have the right to resettlement. So why I first of all did the introduction about positive and negative obligation. Resettlement is a positive obligation. It requires state actors to take certain steps, and those steps are usually very financial. So things that involve economic and budgetary considerations, government will not start asking. Becomes the separation of powers come into question. They will not start asking, does the judiciary have the right to order the executive to commit resources one way or the other? So there are so many other policy questions. So when we realize that as Spaces for Change, we address issues, we work with so many communities like yours that address the issues, we realize that the problem is not just about rights. Many communities have had information about. We realize that the problem is with the laws. So that's why we shifted advocacy with the reform of those laws. Because government can perpetuate any violation or any act that has implication for human rights and justify it with the rule of law. So you have to change the laws first. Because if the laws, for instance, let's say for compensation under the Constitution section 43 and 44 talks about unexhausted improvements on the land. So it means that and it means that if you have land in Tarkwa Bay and you evicted and there is no structure on it yet, you and I know that land has economic value.
It does.
But when government is compensating, except there are like economic crops and trees on the land is just like believed to belong to the government. They just revoke and take the land. You and I know that your priority is even the land, not the building. The government is compensating you for the building and improvements on the land.
So that excludes landowners
without building. So that means that the law itself is problematic. The law automatically has deprived these people of their rights ab initio without them even claiming and demanding it. So we need to come together and ask the Lagos state government to take steps to reform its land holding. Then when you're also talking about upgrading communities, it comes with questions about security of tenure. Security of tenure, like evictions usually is often linked with absence of legal, secure tenure. Which means secure tenure simply means like title. When government can say, where is your C of O? That's like a title. So what it means is that Nigeria is still fixated on C of O and statutory. There's something you said at the beginning. Nigeria had people living here before these laws. Before 1978, we had land use act. There were people living in Lagos. There were people living in Tarkwa Bay. Some of you have lived in Tarkwa Bay before even Lagos became Lagos. So are you saying that those people, because you have enacted one land use act, they should disappear? Some of them, the existence predates the legislation. So it means that Lagos State, considering how big this population is exploding, needs to accommodate other types of land holding. They've done this in South Africa. They've done it in Tanzania. Something like a hybrid between a tenancy and C of O, where you can have, in Tanzania, they have what they call in slum community, the right of stay. All those places you call slums, the owners will start investing and improving it. They are living it like that because they are not sure of what government wants to do. Then the last comment I would think the government needs to hear about is the provisions of Lagos State law itself. It talks about, under Section 55 of the Lagos State Urban Renewal Agency law, says that LASURA can grant, guarantee, or facilitate the grant of loans for housing renovations to a person or persons in line with area improvement plans, or conduct such improvement directly with expense recovery allowable against the property owners. So what this simply means is that if an area like Tarkwa Bay, you say, it's so deteriorated, it's a blight on your mega city. So if you declare that place and if LASURA declares it an improvement area, they have the right to say, if the people are so poor, you grant them loans to improve the area. And they said expenses recovery allowable means that whatever government has spent, they can develop a mechanism for recovering the money from the property owners. Because, the area is improved. It can attract new, you cannot pay new tenants. They can make money from the money, pay back the government. And that way you improve. There are so many ways of improving the city of Lagos without pushing people in the low income bracket deeper into suffering.
So I would like to know what your thoughts are, what we should do, what citizens listening right now should do to help prevent even more forced evictions and to help compensate the people. How can we help, basically?
We all need to engage more with our government to try to kind of show them direction on certain things that they've forgotten, because there's a lot that the government is not really doing on their own part. So, and sometimes, I don't know if the problem is, I'm sure they are aware of these things, but it is just that some people are also doing these things for their own personal interest. And I think that if everybody, if like the whole citizen can start talking about it, engaging people about it, so we can try to kind of redirect their attention to the right things. So, and again, I want to say that I think also, like, a lot of people need to also start participating in government activities. So a lot of people need to start, putting their voice out there to make sure that, because I was listening to Tinubu's comment a few months ago, and he mentioned something. He said that the citizen can actually compel their leaders, even the government, to do the right things. So, and I think that if we all start engaging them, maybe we can, have some breakthrough with that. My name is Asimpo Ilaya Shegun.
Comrade Mohammed Zanna.
I'm an evictee from Otodugbame.
Okay, my name is Victoria Ibezim Ohaeri, and I work with Spaces for Change.
A member of the Nigerian Slum and Informal Federation, coordinating the people living with disability within the Federation unit, and a community-based paralegal, anti-child trafficking.
And currently, I'm the co-coordinator of the Nigerian Slum / Informal Settlement Federation media team. So we're a group of young people from different slum communities, and because of these issues, we are facing like forced evictions, discriminations. So we are trying to use the art of storytelling to change people's perceptions, to raise awareness about these issues, so that more people can engage, and we try to find lasting solutions to all of these problems.
Forced eviction should never, ever happen in the first place. Whatever the justification, whatever the reason, forced eviction is never the right approach to solution. It is a fire brigade approach that cannot take us to anywhere, but rather continue to make the ticking time bomb more dangerous and more explosive one, and if it explodes, hopefully it doesn't have to.
Forced eviction pushes poor people deeper into poverty, and it is not always, never has been a solution to urban renewal and urban regeneration.
Information, power.
Forced eviction,
never again.
Thank you very much, WSM.